clearly there's a war going on outside no one is safe from. 2.2 million in prison and jail. 7.7 million on probation and parole. And don't even forget the family members, the millions and millions of family members, of those millions of family members that is also affected through vicarious trauma. If you've never you yourself been incarcerated in jail or prison, but you have a family member who has been, understand that you also are affected through that trauma. But you don't know what it's like to be in there and tolerate the real trauma, right? They say you should do, if you do the crime, you should do the time, right? Cool. The reality is that Congress writes the laws for these correctional officers to follow. Then the correctional officers and the Department of Corrections, rather, the correctional officers are nothing but pawns, okay? Let's get that clear. Department of Correction writes rules for people who are incarcerated to follow. If they have those rules and they don't make their rules up every other day, it's a new rule and different CO, different rule, and different CO, or the same CO, different mood, different rule. If things like that didn't happen, a lot of people probably wouldn't be coming out there as broke down as they should. But you have to understand, inside of that system, what's going on is that there's crimes being done against the people who are labeled criminal. Therefore, that person, when they come home, they're dealing with a whole lot of trauma from the time that they was missing from society, and also from the crimes that was done to them and there was no recourse for. Okay? I want y'all to do a little bit of reading and to do a little bit of research on the 1971 uprising in Attica. Okay? Where there was a lot of white correctional officers. Now there's a lot of black ones. But there was a lot of white ones there at that time. And they didn't have a lot of rules for the people that was in there. They were eating bad. They were sleeping bad. Everything was just bad and horrible. They was called nigga every day. Nigga, 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 nigga. Those people who were incarcerated in Attica in 1971, they held correctional officers hostage. There were some black ones and some white ones. And if you read that book, Blood in the Water, which is talking about the 1971 Attica Uprising, those correctional officers are older today and are admitting today that they were willing participants. They were not held hostage. They hated what they were made to do. And they allowed themselves to be held hostage so that the people in prison can gain rights that they have. So understand, when you hear me speaking about processing 700 grievances on the behalf of other women who were sexually harassed or just regular harassed, because you don't have to be sexually harassed. There's correctional officers with low self-esteem that come from the projects to sit there and chain and cage us. And when they come there and we get an education in there, they're jealous of us and they tell us. They start picking on us because they want us to go to the box and lose our education. There's a lot. It just runs so deeply. You understand that? Their caging and chaining us is doing something to them mentally, emotionally, psychologically. It is doing something to them. Listen to me. I had a correctional officer that I knew when I first went inside. Beautiful soul. Just was trying to do her job. A lot of correctional officers, they come in there with the right state of mind. But you watch them, because we're incarcerated, we get to watch them too. And we watch them come from a pure person just trying to do good work and do their job. And then after some years, they're a demonic piece of shit that can't wait to brutalize a human being. There's studies on this. Psychology 101. I forget the name of the study. Shit. I'll get it for you later on. But there's a psychological study where they done a test where they had college students act as the role of correctional officers and act as a role of incarcerated person being inside. And what happens is, just within weeks, that correctional officer that's a fake correctional officer, that's a college student, they start acting like real correctional officers. And the people that's incarcerated there as college student, they start getting traumatically affected by everything that the correctional officers is doing to them. So this is a known wicked system, what it does to correctional officers and also what it does to the people they incarcerate, okay? And so There was a correctional officer who I knew when she had first came there. Beautiful person, mad cool, right? Cool in the sense that she wasn't trying to be anything else other than a correctional officer. And it's sad that we call those people cool because they have so many hot-headed assholes that want to make your time harder than it already is. After me doing almost a decade now, I'm in about a decade now in the last facility that I was in, right? This correctional officer would come into my cell, forbidden, completely forbidden. She had hardened, but she was still a nice, genuine person. It is hard to maintain that personality as a CO, and I respect all correctional officers who are actually just doing their job and nothing else, because it's very few of y'all. Salute on some G shit. You know, it's very hard from what she told me. And she would talk to me as if I was a therapist, and I wasn't nobody's therapist. But her being inside of my cell, it could got her fired, it could got me in trouble too, but she did it. You know why? Because I was the person to talk to. I was always the person to talk to. I don't know why, but well, I do. You know, I could be trusted. I could hold secrets. I'm mad cool too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not like a lot of people, so that's why people confided in me. But here goes a correctional officer, not just a person that's incarcerated in green like me. She's completely in blue, completely forbidden. And she's telling me that she would be getting called inmate lover by other correctional officers. Did you just hear that? Remember there was a thing called nigger lover? Well, there's a thing called inmate lover. And what they did to her was they humiliated her. They got her all drunk and they recorded her and posted her online all drunk and fucked up so that they can humiliate her for being an inmate lover. She hated her job. After doing 10 years, she hated her job. She wanted to be a court officer instead because they don't have to go through the same thing that they have to go through. She explained to me that every time that she would go home and have to come back to work the next day, that she had to mentally equip herself for that demonic world, prison, and everything that she was asked to do. Chaining human beings is not normal. She herself had a family member that was incarcerated and would ask me to draw cards for him because she loved my artwork. A lot of correctional officers love my artwork. There was this one CO that told me I couldn't slash my eyebrows, but then asked me to do a card for her. I said, bitch, I'ma slash my eyebrows. I'ma shave it. That's changing your identity, allegedly. It's changing your identity. They just want to control you more than you're already controlled. That's because they don't have any control. So that's what they do. And so sometimes for cards, they'll let you do illegal things, which is illegal. The whole system is illegal. But they understand that people have to live, that people are being put under certain types of rules that's just arbitrary. It's arbitrary and it's abnormal. So the long story short is that through this correctional officer who was a beautiful soul, and I hope she no longer works for Department of Corrections. I hope she did turn into a court officer instead. I really do, so she could save her soul. But you know, I got to see things through a different lens and a different perspective. You know, so people who ask me to move on or to find peace and things like this is because they have no clue what really goes on inside of the penitentiary. And I had a therapist once tell me, right, when I first came home, I was taking anger management and seeking all the therapy to try to remove all the harm, which is a healthy thing and a happy thing to do, right? And so that therapist told me that she was under the impression that when people came home, that they're just happy to be home, happy-go-lucky. From doing the job that she did and speaking to a whole bunch of formerly incarcerated men and women, what she has told me that she came to learn is that it's the furthest thing from the truth, and that the level of trauma that we deal with coming back into society is arbitrary. It's so unfair. It's so cruel and unusual that it gave her insight to want to help us more. There's a lot of people out there like that. White, black, Spanish, Asian. They understand what's going on. They do studies on the system, or they themselves have been impacted. Okay? And the more that we talk about it, the more that society is educated. And then there's a part of society who's caging us, that part, they don't want us to talk about it. So they begin to do things to me to get me to be quiet. Now, a lot of us talk through trauma. A lot of us. We come home, we want to educate society because we want the harm to stop for the people that we left behind. Salute to everybody that's doing that. Salute. Because it's not easy, right? And so you have to understand that when you're black, there's still white supremacists out there. They got rid of the black power structure, but they kept the white power structure. And they plan on exterminating us as a whole, as a race. The food that they're serving people in the penitentiary is killing them. It's killing their kids, and it's killing them. And when I first came home, Barred Prison Initiative, Barred Prison Initiative, the one where I got my associate's degree from, inside of prison, which their program inside of prison, extraordinary. But what they do to us when we come out is not. And I'm going to talk about that. I know that punk ass Max Kenner don't want me to talk about that, but I'm going to talk about that. And a lot of men and women are talking about that. And while I was speaking on behalf of Bard, when I came home to talk about how extraordinary their curriculum is in prison, I didn't know a lot about them that I do now, that I had to learn actually the hard way. Because when people was talking about them, I'm like, what? They was making you do the monkey dance and that's a whole nother story. I want these black men that like talking about Bard so much to have a spine and lift their dick up and find their balls. This way I can stop having all of this hostility onto me as if I'm saying something other than what's being said behind these people's back. And the griminess that they're doing to us, thinking that we're their fucking slaves, and we're never their slaves. Now, one thing about me, I'll tell you something, right? I spoke on their behalf in a good way. I told the truth about their program. The program inside, extraordinary. But it has nothing to do with them. It had more to do with the college professors that were the beautiful souls that they were when they came into the facility and never treated us like an inmate, never treated us like a prisoner, never treated us like a criminal. They treated us like a student, and all we wanted to be was students. We were there to learn. And so in return, that took us out of a place and put us into a better place where we had more hope in society to be somebody better than what they said that we was. Once upon a time, just 15 years ago, people who are formally incarcerated would never get a job, ever. And so formerly incarcerated people, they came home and they changed the game. They're the ones who did that. Formerly incarcerated people came home and started hiring their own. Something that black people should do as a whole. Black people like to be talking about LGBT issues and how, all the rights for LGBTs and all of this stuff is because LGBTs have one thing in common. They stick together. There's unity. Y'all like to talk about the Asians. Asians have one thing in common. They have unity. You like to talk about the Jews. Jews, unity. Formerly incarcerated people, there's a lot of us that are black. And you know what? We have unity. But what a lot of black people have is jealousy, hate, malice, and a lot of generational trauma. That's why you're telling me to move on, because you guys don't mind allowing your family members to die off. Somebody clip them and you don't avenge their death. That's not me. Please don't ask me to be anything like you. You guys have harm done to you and you move on. That's not me. Don't ask me to be anything like you. Another thing, people telling me, I hope you find peace. No, you don't. If you hope that I find peace, you would have never left me when I was fucking traumatized, fucked up, and down. And so what happened is that when I had exposed that rape, when it had kicked up, I know I looked like a weak sucker online, exposing my own violation and humiliating myself in order to humiliate somebody who have humiliated me. But what I've also known is that I was getting rid of that weakness that I've had held in so long. Too long. And now that I've got rid of that weakness and I'm at the highest vibration that I've ever been in my life, or I'm at the highest vibration that I've been in since the age of 15, before I was violated, I'm at that highest vibration. And I'm being asked to find peace. Do you see where my videos have been recorded lately? In the most peaceful place. I found peace. You go find peace. Don't ask me to find peace before you find peace. Take it how you want it. People will leave you when you're down, but you don't leave them when they're down. I have a lot of love and I have a lot of loyalty, but it don't belong to everybody is what I learned. Because people will leave you fucked up and down and then ask you to go find peace when you've picked yourself up. I don't understand it. But it's fine. We're going to learn today. Because the reality is that I have peace within myself, but I'm at war. And I'm not asking to be at war for black people. I didn't want this, but it's clear that there's a lot going on that we need to get past, that we need to know. And what happens with some soldiers, they take hits and they got to get out that war, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But while you have stepped out, don't ask me to step out. Retreat, never surrender. Retreat, never surrender. Bard Prison Initiative, they're going down for what they've done to me. The Ford Foundation, they're going down for what they've done to me. Borealis Philanthropy, they're going down for what they've done to me. And the story is wickeder than we think. You guys think that they hired me, a fake therapist? Oh no. I spoke to the people in the Transgender Fund. Shout out to them. Shout out to all transgenders. And I'm going to speak on that on another term. The transgender that I had spoke to, when we had our conversation, sometimes, you meet up with co-workers and stuff, and we just chit-chat about whatever we wanted to, right? What I found out from this transgender person is that bitch Tamia, that demonic, satanic bitch Tamia, her and her little wellness team, yeah, they dragged that onto the whole entire team. What you need to know about Borealis Philanthropy is that they are the most official organization before this took place. The most official. There's powers to be on their board of directors that's not so official. And somewhere down the line, corruption had taken place. I was focused on my own healing. I wasn't aware of it. People were telling me. One of their own satanic cult members was exposing stuff because I wasn't supposed to be alive. So it's like right before you kill somebody, you start spilling out all the beans. Yeah, that's what happened. That bitch Maggie, the president, the former president, she was getting death threats to her mansion. She spoke about this often, okay? White supremacists were hitting her up at her mansion. Right there on her fucking mansion steps. Bitch, we're gonna kill your ass if you don't stop this revolutionary bullshit. Revolutionary is an understatement for the work that they're doing. The people that they're funding is doing the most revolutionary shit. They can't stop it. They think I'm the revolutionary one. Oh no, I learned from these motherfuckers. Okay, listen, the revolutionary, it won't be funded, but you can't stop it. You can't stop it. It's like cockroaches. They have 99% melanin. This melanin here is so popping. But it's not only about melanin. They have transgender funds. They have funds for immigration rights. They have funds for disability rights. These are important issues in our society that does not need to be corrupted. And it got corrupted by this president who sold out her organization and sacrificed some of her employees. And I'm telling you this because this is more than just my story. Other people are not telling it. Maybe they got paid out. But I know what this transgender person told me. They told me that same satanic wellness team was hired for them as well. And they told me that, imagine you're listening to the people that you have to fund and it's triggering your own trauma. So their trauma was triggered as well. I was working on a criminal justice fund. My trauma was triggered in that way. And so that's what they did. They triggered our trauma. And then they brought this wellness team to us to get deep down rooted to do what they needed to do. It's an evil part of society that's going on, and it gets darker. So the organization was a target. I wasn't the main target, but I was a target, and it came after I protested against the world's largest funder. And after I protested against the world's largest funder, just a week later, I was at the city council building speaking out for no new jails. Why that's important is because the Ford Foundation who has all this money, they was going around to all of their funders saying, don't fund no new jails, and was talking bad about no new jails. And I've been out there with no new jails, and they was just telling the people in the Brooklyn Detention Center that they loved them. They wasn't causing any harm, but they was also educating people to follow the money behind a lot of this corruption. So they were waking people up. They want the harm to stop. They want the harm and the extermination against blacks and the injustice against black people and all minority groups to stop. And they want Ford to stop pretending that there's something that they're really not, which is a social justice organization. They're social injustice. And they're co-opting movements. They're buying people out. They're buying organizations out. They're buying people out. And they're paying people to clip me. Me and others. There's a lot of dark stuff going on. So, being that I was in that organization for a year, and I had spoke up for myself from what that HR director was doing to myself and other formerly incarcerated people, they started bad talking me. And for the last 3 months of me being in that organization, for the last 3 months, it was silence. I went from being there for a year, an internship, my first 9 months, everybody wanted to work on me. I was so ambitious. I was on all these different projects. In my last 3 months, nobody even spoke to me. They didn't even say good morning. They didn't even say hello. I believe that my identity was stolen since then, and that people been impersonating me online because I discovered their whole satanic cult online, and they're doing it to other people. I'm going to have a follow-up because it's a lot that's going on, but I just really wanted to say that. There's a war going on no man is safe from. If you're not going to join, don't ask me to leave. Just get off my fucking page. Thank you. Deuce.